I was running around in
It's so
shorts.
good to see you. I think I haven't seen you in a long time.
Yeah, for
maybe.
like 10 years.
Yeah, it's great to see you.
Great to see you.
Yeah,
So
you look
good to
great,
see
and thank you.
So thank you for this opportunity, for this interview, and welcome to this beautiful Kyiv. How you came here when in the time of war. How do you feel about Kyiv today, and what are the challenges right now in front of this country and in front of United States supporting this country?
Miroslava, thank you so much. It's great to see you, and it's great to see you in Kyiv. I can't tell you how proud I am to be here and to be back as the U.S. ambassador and to be working with a fantastic team of Americans and Ukrainian staff. So the challenges in front of Ukraine and us are enormous. When I came, I set out 5 goals, immediate goals that we had. And the first is to help Ukraine defend itself. The second is to help ensure accountability and justice for war crimes and atrocities. The third is to help ensure that humanitarian assistance, especially U.S. Funded assistance, gets to targeted recipients, especially in conflict zones. The fourth is to oversee this massive amount of U.S. assistance and to provide the appropriate oversight from here at Post in Kyiv. And the last and the most fun is to bring our team back together, the Americans and the Ukrainians that make up the embassy, and to rebuild our platform. So yes, the challenges in front of Ukraine are very big and in front of all of us, but we are really determined and ready to meet them.
President Biden yesterday announced additional funding for Ukraine. The United States have been a biggest supporter of Ukraine militarily and financially. And you mentioned about overseeing how this money is used in this country. What kind of system do you have right now to oversee the money?
So there are long established systems for all of the assistance that we give, including security assistance. And what we're doing now is just making sure that we are playing the appropriate role we need to play here in Kyiv, but working with the Ministry of Defense and other parts of the Ukrainian government. So it's important that we're here for that and other reasons, but I'm confident that we will be able to do this.
Is there any special envoy to oversee the support that the United States is giving to Ukraine?
The way we are doing it is that we'll have our embassy, and so I'm really happy to be here as the ambassador, and then I will have specific staff, and including senior staff that are dedicated to these goals and more.
President Zelensky kind of hinted that a few days ago that the United States is not giving enough or giving too late. How would you comment his position?
Well, I would say that since the beginning of the war and even before, we have been totally focused on getting Ukraine the security items and the weapons that they need as soon as possible. And this is actually my #1 focus in coming here. I do think that there were some problems early on, and I'm just here to make sure that everything that we are doing is directly supporting Ukrainians on the front lines and also helping Ukraine improve its battlefield position, which we also believe will help its negotiating position at a time when that is appropriate.
How is your relationship with the Ukrainian government right now? Do you work on all the levels of Ukrainian government? I understand that it's a time of war still.
Yeah. I think one of the things that I've noticed more than anything, having been a diplomat for 25 years, is the overwhelming and positive support that I have received from the government, from people outside of government, from the population, and also the support from back home, including the public in my part of the Midwest. So I'm really grateful for that. I think it's really important for us. I think we understand, I understand this is incredibly important for Ukraine and Ukraine's future and existence. But I believe it's also incredibly important to European security and to the United States that we do not allow borders to be changed by force.
You mentioned European security, and today the 4 presidents are in town in Kyiv, and European Commission is supposed to decide on on the candidate status for Ukraine. What is the United States position in this regard?
So, of course, we're not members of the European Union, but we have long supported Ukraine's Euro-Atlantic integration.
Russia issue. How do you generally see this war? I'm there's different tactics and different strategy that United States and other Western countries using, and obviously United States is taking leadership in building this coalition against Russia. However, Ukrainians are suffering big time, and as the war is prolonged for a long time, how do you see this war ends? There's a lot of talks about peace negotiation. How do you see a possible peace negotiation, if we can call it peace negotiation?
Well, as Secretary Blinken has said, we are leaving it up to the Ukrainians as to at what time Ukraine would want to negotiate at the conclusion of the war. I know that President Biden has pointed out how President Zelensky has said all wars end in negotiation. But again, we're leaving that timing and content up to the Ukrainians.
Okay, so and then what are the expectations, United States expectation from Ukraine at this point? There was a lot of talks about before the war about anti-corruption efforts and so on. What are the looking forward? What are your expectations for Ukraine?
So, Miroslava, I might put it a little different way. I think those of us who are such strong supporters within the U.S. government, within the American population for Ukraine, support Ukraine because we see, or we think we see and understand the future that Ukrainians want. And that is a future where Ukraine is free, independent, prosperous, sovereign, and gets to decide its own future. To us as Americans, it really appeals to also who we are. So what I would hope, what I plan to do and what we are doing is supporting Ukraine in this immediate task of prevailing in its effort to defend itself. That is crucially important. I think everybody would agree, and I think the government here and the people here would agree that another important task is and will be and will remain the reform effort, which will secure Ukraine for a future for Ukrainian children and their children.
And this war is not only about Ukraine, obviously. Ukraine is fighting for it's a bigger goal. Ukraine is fighting for democracy. Ukraine is fighting for European values as well. So if, let's say, I mean, it's hard to say, but if Ukraine failed, what could be the consequences?
Well, Ukraine won't fail, and we will continue to support Ukraine for as long as it takes. And as I mentioned, this is obviously very important to Ukraine, but it's also really important to European security. It's really important to America because, as President Biden has said, it's both morally outrageous, what has happened, this unprovoked, unjustified attack on a sovereign nation, but it also is in America's vital interest to have peace and security in Europe. So this is something that has repercussions that go well beyond Ukraine. And for this reason, we all understand very much what's at stake. And that's why we're here, to help Ukraine prevail.
And one more question about the rebuilding efforts. There are a lot of efforts in European Union, in United States, a lot of talks about planning to rebuild Ukraine. How do you see this process going forward? And do you already have set coalition to do that?
Well, I know there's this conference that's coming up in Lugano in July to talk about this process. I believe that my government and my country will want to support Ukraine in every way possible. I think we will also want Ukraine to take the lead in terms of how best to do that reconstruction. And from what I hear from the government leadership, it's very focused on reform, focused on building the Ukraine for the future, which I think is something we all can support.
Thank you so much.